La clase, hoy es miércoles that's an incorrect date, el 28 de octubre de 2020. Hoy tenemos para empezar a watch today's lesson. You're on the right track. And I'll get to those other things in a second. So let's go ahead and start by pulling out your notebooks. Pause this video if you need to find it. I want to review a few questions. So I believe we reviewed our first set of notebook questions for this unit. Let's go ahead and flip to page 53 and look at some of these things. One thing I really want to point out to you is actividad dos, okay? It says, complete the following sentences with an expression of frequency from the word bank. Number 1, Rodrigo y Trina son muy inteligentes. You would need to say, siempre les gusta contestar. That's because siempre comes before the verb. Nunca and siempre always come before. Mucho comes after the verb, which is what we write on number 2. Tengo que estudiar mucho. And in number 1, maybe I need to clarify this. The verb is gusta, right? He, or it's saying they like. So that's a verb. So we need to put siempre before that. And number 2, the verb is tengo que estudiar. Okay, estudiar is a verb. Sorry, I'm yawning. Tengo is also a verb. So put mucho after your verbs. Number 3, nunca. Notice it's before your verb gustar and hacer. And the last one, de vez en cuando. That's at the very end. And remember, de vez en cuando is one of those things that can be put at the beginning or at the end of your sentence. Okay. For number 3. Sorry, I think they're cleaning a little bit. I'm going to pause this maybe. Oh, I can't. Okay, well, never mind. We're going to continue. Number 3, a good sentence could be, él tiene que estudiar. He has to study. Number 2, ella tiene que usar la computadora. And number 3, ellos tienen que hacer la tarea. If you flip over to page 54, your answer should be D, B, C, C. And I'll just go through the first 2 of number 2. If you need to say Maria Elena y Nora, it'd be tienen que, right? Or ellos, conjugation of tener. Tienen que estudiar mucho. We say tienen que because they have to do it. Nosotros siempre, remember siempre goes before a verb, siempre tenemos que usar la computadora. Go ahead and flip to page 56. We'll go through some of these. One that I checked was 1.4, ustedes trabajan todos los días. 2.4, Sandra, tú siempre llegas temprano a casa. We're taking the AR off of llegar and we're adding the AS for the 2 ending. And I'm checking number 4 of actividad 3. Usted enseña matemáticas. We're using the A ending for enseñar. Again, subtract the AR, add the appropriate ending. Moving on to page 57. Number 4 on the first activity should be yo siempre alquilo. That's going to be B, checking that one. And finally, if you go down the page, number 3, if you said 3.3, I should say, if you said miro la televisión después de las clases, that could be correct. Or you could say no, comma, no miro la televisión después de las clases. So they're asking you, miras, right? Do you watch? You're responding with miro, I watch. Or no miro, I do not watch. If you have any questions on those, please email me. Again, with the writing assessment coming up, you want to be pretty clear on all these things. So what I have for you today is we're practicing for our upcoming writing assessment. Let me make sure I click the right tab. Yes, so the writing assessment 2.1 is taking place on Friday. Please be familiar with your book. The assessment is book and it's timed. So the more familiar you're with your book and with vocab, the more you're going to be able to write within the time limit. And that is to make it fair for my in-person students, okay? Because they have a time limit, which is the class period. So here are the things you need to be able to do. You need to be able to tell time correctly. Look at page 90 for help for that. You need to conjugate tener correctly, and to know when to use tener and tener que. Go back and watch my videos if you need to, or go back and play that Kahoot that I made. That will be helpful. You will need to know how to use expressions of frequency properly. Again, I'm giving you the page numbers to help you with this. You'll need to know how to conjugate regular AR verbs, and you'll need to use vocabulary from the book in your responses. Now, what I've written below is what is on the assessment. The first two questions are super similar to a few of the questions we did last week during one of our lessons. I think it was on Thursday. You can see those on page 95, activity 10. Those are going to be our two short answer questions. Our third question is simply conjugating an AR verb. So if I gave you the verb enseñar, and you say enseño, enseñas, enseña, enseñamos, enseñáis, and enseñan, right? So know how to do that. And then these last two questions are the big ones, and will get you the most points. So the fourth question is similar to what we wrote in class last Friday, right? We used our class schedule and we wrote what we have to do in each class. So tengo la clase de ciencias, tengo que tomar apuntes. It's going to be similar to that, not exactly the same. So be ready to conjugate tener and use it correctly. Tener by itself, remember, shows possession. So tengo una llama, right? I have a llama. This is Billy, by the way. He will show up on your assessment. If you use tener que, that's showing obligation, what someone has to do. So like, tengo que usar la computadora. I have to use the computer. Tengo que leer un libro. I have to read a book. Okay, so read through this. And finally, the fifth question is free write, more or less. You will need to use your AR verbs we've been learning to write a paragraph. Now check those out on page 105. Make sure you know how to conjugate all of those. Make sure you can use them in context, right? Make sure you can write a good paragraph using those, okay? So practice these things. Please be prepared for your assessment on Friday. And to help you be prepared, I've given you guys some practice questions that might be similar to what you might see on the assessment. So it's quizzes. I'm going to resume my attempt, but you guys will do your own attempt. And it's going to give you things like this sentence with the verb contestar and the pronoun ustedes. So you need to think to yourself, how can I use this in a sentence? Ustedes contestar. Now I take off the AR and I'm adding the ustedes ending AN. So ustedes contestan las preguntas de la maestra. Okay? Then I'll submit that. Write a sentence with the verb llegar and the pronoun yo. So yo, llegar minus the AR, add an O. Yo llego a la clase muy temprano. Okay, so doing these things are going to help you practice writing sentences with these verbs, with these pronouns, and it'll be helpful practice for you guys in preparing for your writing assessment. I linked the study guide we just kind of went over here. One thing I really encourage you guys to do is practice writing this paragraph. Using AR verbs, write a paragraph, okay? I encourage you guys to practice that to prepare for Friday. Finally, I have hopefully a quick assignment for you guys, just reviewing how to tell time. You will need to know how to tell time on the test and spelling it out, right? I'm not going to count a numerical value for time. Okay, you need to spell it out. So here's your homework to do that. That's all I have for today. Again, if you have questions, let me know. And I'm looking forward to reading your work on Friday. Adios, mis estudiantes.